Yankees another win. Mets, obviously, McGill got rocked after a really good start by the Mets. We'll get to that as well. NFL schedule drops tonight, and Tiki thinks I'm a complete wuss for something that I told him off the air that will obviously run by you guys. But first, what's happening, buddy? You doing well?
Good, man. It's funny. I just heard Recco on Boomer.
Who's that? Jerry Rello? Recco.
Recco.
Yes.
I heard Recco.
Love Recco.
On Boomer Gio asking about the Nets.
Steady voice here at the fan,
very
Recco.
Steady. Awesome.
Same guy every day.
No doubt about it.
Love Recco.
But he asked an important question about the Knicks and their lack of a postseason press conference from anyone. Other than we heard the World Wide West thing. It was minor. It didn't really. It wasn't
the one with Breen.
Yeah, it wasn't a postscript on the season. And we finally got one from the Nets, and for Sean Marks, who was. You're right, BT. Standing up, having a backbone, talking about what he expects the culture to be for this Nets organization, starting with the locker room. And he was talking specifically and also indirectly at Kyrie Irving, which I thought was important because the Nets all season long, whether it was because of the vaccination thing or even a couple years ago when he was away from the team, they've never taken a hard stance. With Kyrie Irving. And I think part of the reason that they don't, BT, is because they feel like he is a superstar who they can't win without. Like they need him to be that guy.
But they're desperate.
Desperate.
No, they are. They are beholden to whatever wackiness he drags them through.
I agree, but when Sean Marks says what he said over the last couple of days, yesterday in specific, that we want guys who want to be here, we want guys who are available, he's talking directly to those things that Kyrie Irving hasn't provided for the Nets. And so they're taking a hard stance. But as I look at this, the only way I can see it is that the Nets don't have a chance to win a championship if Kyrie Irving is not on this team. And so they can talk hard, they can make the perception or try to make the perception that they're going to be hard on Kyrie Irving or threaten the fact that they're not going to give him a long-term deal. Without Kyrie Irving, I don't think the Nets can win a championship. So they got to speak their way or try to speak their way into getting him to acquiesce. And I'm not sure that's going to work with a guy who has a personality like he does.
There's no chance it's going to work. It's 10:05 here on the Fan. Tiki and Tierney inside the Town Fair Tire Studio. Our friends at Town Fair remind you that at Town Fair you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair. Nobody. There's three options the way I see it right now for the Brooklyn Nets pertaining to Kyrie's contract. Now, he obviously has the cards in some of these situations. Number one, he picks up the player option, which is $36.5 million for 22-23. Now, the thought there, if he does pick up, which I don't think will necessarily happen, but if he does that, he would be entering a more fruitful, part of the pool next summer where more teams have more cap. All right, so that's one aspect. Number two, he opts out. He re-signs with Brooklyn, obviously. Now, Durant is locked up through 25-26. Or number three, Kyrie picks up the option, and then Brooklyn tries to sign and trade him, which is also a distinct possibility. And I think that's kind of what Sean Marks is threatening right there. Listen, I don't think – now, you already know my thoughts. You heard it in the open, and that was from a couple of weeks ago. The Nets are out of their minds if they hand this guy 4 years. And I don't need anybody to tell me how good Kyrie Irving is. He's a showstopper. He's this, he's that. We all know that. We've all watched Kyrie Irving play basketball for the last decade or so. He is a superstar with box office tantalizing talents. Known fact, no need to debate that. What needs to be debated is whether or not Kevin Durant really even cares as much as a lot of people tend to think he cares, because you always get this. When I say that the Nets can't bring back Durant for 4 years, you'll get this. Well, Kevin Durant's not going to be happy. I got news for you. Kevin Durant already signed the contract through 25-26. So what is his recourse? And maybe, just maybe, Tiki, maybe Kevin Durant's getting a little tired of Kyrie's petulance. I don't know.
That could be the case because we know Kevin Durant only wants to play basketball. At the end of the day, I think that Kevin Durant is a basketball player who loves basketball, who if he had to roll out there with, five guys who weren't superstars, he'd still do it. He wouldn't like it because it would limit his chances of winning a championship. But as I think about Kevin Durant, I think it's less about I got to go get a championship. He's got two. He's got two finals MVPs. He's got a regular season MVP. I think he just loves basketball. And so for me, this always comes back to Kyrie. And if Kyrie's unmotivated, the Brooklyn Nets don't have a chance to win a championship in this journey that they've been on for the last 3 years of bringing in Kyrie and then getting KD and then trading for James Harden. And now you got Ben Simmons, who's a kind of a reclamation project to get him mentally and physically back on track. Like, all of that goes out the window if Kyrie Irving is not here. And so they talk tough about Kyrie, but it's not going to change Kyrie because Kyrie is so set in his ways.
Yep, but it might change what they do about Kyrie. You're right. Nothing's going to change Kyrie Irving. That's a very astute point, and that needs to be said. But the Nets can change how they operate.
Yes.
And maybe those words yesterday was a foreshadow to that. I don't know.
I mean, maybe.
Maybe they're hollow, baseless. Maybe they're just trying to feed people because they hear what we've been saying. Grow a spine.
Mm-hmm.
You can't let the players run the team. Nobody's bigger than the franchise. They know what the scouting report is on their team, and Sean Marks, who constructed this team, he's a proud guy, and he's a good basketball man, and he's got to take it personally on a professional level and also on a personal level. So I don't know if what he said yesterday he really means, and eventually we'll find out based on what they do, but I think that he just felt like, all right, I've got to at least project something that is contrary to what's being said about us.
Yes, but at the end of the day, I don't know if it's going to work. And I think he's saying it to put on a tough face, to try to make Kyrie acquiesce, but Kyrie will not acquiesce.
No chance he's going to acquiesce.
He's going to be the guy that he is. And, and sometimes that's fantastic. It's great when he's that way. Other times he's aloof. And it's hard to figure out or even, I don't know, direct his changing ways, but you know that he's a great basketball player. And when he's on and he can drop 50 on you, when he can be a great assister, he can do almost anything you need him to do as a leader, as a point guard, or as an off ball guard. He can do all of that. And so they need him. So they got to talk tough to try to get him to come into the fold, so to speak, to be a part of this new culture development that they're talking about, that it's got to come from the players. All these things. He's talking directly to Kyrie. Mm-hmm. Some specifically talking to Kyrie, some talking around, but also talking to Kyrie. I don't know if it's going to change Kyrie.
And if it doesn't, they don't. Further.
They don't. Well, it might. But if they don't get it done, there's no chance that they have a chance to win a championship.
877-337-6666. It's crazy. I mean, Kyrie Irving to me is the most unreliable superstar in sports. Now, I just want to play something for you. Last night, right? So he pops on the live stream and he's playing Grand Theft Auto by himself on Twitch, right? So. And again, it's nothing that it's not vulgar or, like
there's nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong with it, but it's still off-putting when you know everything that you know. When we've lived through what we've lived through, Kyrie, the professional basketball player, and all that comes with that. Now you want to give him 4 more years? Just listen to this.
It's about so long y'all can say the same jokes. Oh, Kyrie, what are you doing at home? That's how y'all sound to me. Oh, what are you doing at home? Are you going to Cancun? Where are you? Are you at home? Oh, Kyrie, you suck. Alright. What, babe? What are you doing? Oh my god, go back to Cleveland. Oh my god, Boston hates you.
That's true.
Oh my god. That's how y'all sound to me, cockroaches. That's how y'all sound to me.
Well, it's true. Boston couldn't stand you. And, outside of the smallest percentage of Net fans who are desperate for a championship, New York doesn't even like you.
That's interesting.
So, I mean, was that wrong? He's so unlikable, that guy, man.
Why?
He is so unlikable.
I wonder why the modern, I'm going to say NBA player, because it's mostly NBA players, are so bothered by what people are saying about them. Because they're sensitive
divas who they've been given everything. Now, I mean, they earn it too, but they have been coddled and protected and elevated. I don't mean Kyrie, who's a world-class player, but some of these other guys who are kind of fringy from the AAU circuit. The moment they step out of like 5th grade, they are treated like royalty, like mega Hollywood stars. and it creates this false sense of security, this inflated sense of self-worth, and this is what you have as an adult.
But he's I hear what you're saying, but the challenge is that he's so damn good.
Yeah, I would let him walk. I don't even want him for a year. The more I think about it,
but
he could take a hike.
I think the problem is that all of the stuff that surrounds Kyrie, it often takes precedence over what's important with Kyrie. And that is, as a basketball player, he is really damn good. And if you're the Brooklyn Nets and you want to win a championship, you need Kyrie Irving to be in the fold. You need him to do all the things that Sean Marks is talking about. Now, the question is, what point does that become not possible?
I think it's already, dude, he is who he is. He's 30.
Yeah, but
he's not like just some young, developing, impressionable, moldable athlete.
No, he's not changing.
He is who he is.
He's not changing.
So why would you give him 4 years if you know he's not changing?
Because
he ain't changing.
Because you've put in all of this effort and energy to build this team the way that you've built it. Kyrie is a big part of that. And if he's not there, your chances of being one of the top elite teams in the NBA
they just got
out
swept
the window.
with Kyrie Irving.
I understand
they got swept.
Yeah, but that was circumstances because of the season. I mean, from him being missing half the games to Kevin Durant missing 20, Joe Harris is out. You got a makeshift crew of guys. Ben Simmons not even playing. Patty Mills had been there for half a second.
Okay.
Andre Drummond, I mean, he's only there for a little bit. So the circumstances of last year explain away.
Did Kevin Durant play?
The swept. Kevin Durant
did Kyrie Irving play?
Kevin Durant played.
Did they get swept?
They did get swept.
3 facts.
They are facts, but there's nuance to those facts.
877-337-6666. I mean, yeah, you could keep Kyrie Irving, man. You could keep him. James is in North Arlington on the Fan. What's up, James?
I'm really lucky to be the first caller today. I find the topic incredible, only for the fact that I was a government worker for 35 years, but I also was lucky enough, and I still do. I write a sports column for almost 50 years for a couple of small local papers. So, I've gotten to cover the NBA since the 80s, and I covered the Nets when they were in Jersey, and it's interesting. And also, having been a government worker, this conversation, as I understand, well, you can make a parallel between a lot of things in life, but it's like, well, you guys at the Fan, you guys always show up. I know Boomer's out sick today, but you guys always show up.
And by the way, best wishes to our teammate Booms.
Yeah.
Battling COVID. I know they announced this on the air. It's the only reason I'm saying it. But
he'll be better.
Yep.
The thing is, it's like working with someone at your government job who was a veteran worker, but he never came to work. So basically, he knew how to do everything, but he never came, or if he came, he was disgruntled. So what's more important? A guy who maybe isn't quite as good, but he always comes in, or he's reliable. And Kyrie Irving is redefining. Unfortunately, I think he's hurting a lot of athletes in every sport because he is great, and I can understand. Your partner's attitude toward him because he is great. But when you think about great players, I mean, I don't want to go back and start saying like Babe Ruth or Mickey Mantle, but those guys, they showed up. And look
to be fair, Mickey Mantle showed up half sloshed half the time. I mean, let's keep it real.
But look how good he was.
No, I understand that, but he also had a lot of people, and I didn't see Mickey play. Thanks for the call there, James. A lot of people think that, Mickey Mantle, aside from the knee injuries, but the drinking, left a year or two on the table of big-time stats because of, what he was doing at night. Let's be fair.
Yeah, I think you're right. But the Nets have a decision to make, and it's really a decision that's going to define their short-term future, BT. Are you going to stick with a guy like Kyrie or pay him the contract extension? Mm-hmm. Stick with Kyrie
Which
Irving.
Which is about $250 million for those who might not know.
That's right, and put him more on par with what some of the top guys are making.
Mm-hmm.
And just for context, Kevin Durant's making $44 million this year. Kyrie, that is next year, it's 36.5, almost 37 million, but still he's significantly less. But the Nets have a decision to make. Are they going to chase the championship with one of the best players in the NBA, or are they going to commit to culture as the more important variable to winning in the long term? That it's hard to do that in your mind, because how do you move on from a guy like Kyrie Irving? Who is great?
The Celtics did. They're doing pretty well.
True, but
Cavaliers did. They're on the rise.
I don't think the Celtics invested as much in Kyrie as the
because they're a better
Brooklyn
organization than the Nets. That's why they're
the
smarter.
Brooklyn Nets. Well, they may be smarter, but Kyrie is great, and we know that. But culture matters probably more than having great players.
Hey, listen, I'm gonna just dumb it down, and I agree with most of what you just said there, but I'm gonna dump it down to two schools of thought here. The Nets can either be wannabes and basically beg people to come there and let them do whatever they want, or they can really grow and evolve into a legitimate, smart, savvy, sound franchise. Mm-hmm. Right now, they're kind of in the middle, where they gave the keys to guys because they had to coerce them to come there, let them do whatever they want. They do have some smart people working there. I'm not trying to discredit the Nets. They do things. They do some things very well, but they're like in the middle of the road. And the great franchises, you might you might steal the championship. Here, even that's kind of rare. But in terms of sustainability, there's a methodology that you need to subscribe to for all the smart organizations. And I got news for you. Look at every team in this city. I don't care if they're awesome or they're a doormat. Yanks, Mets, Jets, Giants, Knicks, Rangers, Isles, Devils. What other team is held captive by one guy like the Brooklyn Nets are? Name the team.
They're not.
I'm all ears.
There's not one.
There's not one. There was rumblings after 1 year that Kadarius Toney was a pain in the ass. Now, whether or not that's fully legit, whatever, but there was a thought, hey, we might get rid of him. I mean, Jamal Adams was a pain in the ass. Get lost. Yeah. Look at the Jets all of a sudden coming up.
Well, yeah.
I mean, think about it. You've got to do what is right for the team.
Well, you got to stand for something. You got to be represented by something more than just the player, right? And if you're not, then what are you? Because that player could be gone, like he was for half the season because of the vaccination issue. He was just gone, and so because you didn't have a big piece of your team, you end up just waffling. It felt like the Nets just waffled all season long. They weren't anything. And I think Sean Marks recognizes that, and that's why he had this press conference and stated the things that he stated the way that he did. They're at a crossroads, BT. It's, do we stick with Kyrie because he can help us win a championship and he's great, or do we put culture first?